Today, we're jumping into one of the greatest intellectual showdowns of the 20th century. It's a story about a monumental book, G.K. Chesterton's The Everlasting Man, and how it was born from an argument between two literary giants.
So let's just start with a really provocative question, one that gets to the heart of this whole thing. What if the most popular history of the world completely left out the main character? That was the challenge G.K. Chesterton saw, and his answer would echo through the decades. All right, first up, let's meet the two men at the center of this whole debate. We're talking about a real rivalry of giants. So on one side, you've got H.G. Wells. He's the scientist, the materialist, the guy who saw history as this long, slow, gradual evolution. And then on the other side, you have G.K. Chesterton. He's the artist, the religious thinker who saw history completely differently, as a series of dramatic, earth-shattering revolutions. You can already see how their clash of worldviews was just destined to create sparks.
But here's the thing that's so cool about this rivalry. It was built on a real friendship, on deep respect. Wells himself once wrote this amazing line to Chesterton: "If after all my atheology," that was his clever term for his anti-theology views, "turns wrong and your theology right, I feel I shall always be able to pass into heaven as a friend of GKC." I mean, they were fierce intellectual opponents, but they were still friends.
The whole argument really kicked off in 1920 when Wells published his book, The Outline of History. And you have to understand, this book was a massive bestseller. Everybody was reading it. Its central idea was that human history is the smooth, unbroken line of evolution, all based on material science, from a tiny bit of protoplasm all the way to modern man. And in that story, figures like Jesus, well, they were just important teachers. Great historical figures, but nothing more than that.
Well, Chesterton reads this, and he just has this huge problem with it. He argued that Wells's smooth, neat outline was totally wrong because it completely ignored what he called the things that stick out. The unique, the revolutionary events and figures that don't fit the neat little pattern, but in fact actually define the whole story.
So how did he even begin to make his case against such a popular idea? Well, he used this absolutely brilliant method for making you rethink everything you thought you knew. He called it seeing for the first time.
Chesterton starts by asking a question that gets right to the core of his whole approach. Think about it. How do you truly see something you've looked at 1,000 times? His answer is that you have to strip away all the familiarity, all the things you take for granted, to see how strange and wonderful it really is.
And to show us how, he asks us to play a little game. He wants us to imagine encountering one of the queerest of the prehistoric creatures as if we had absolutely no idea what it was.
He starts building this picture for us, piece by piece. Okay, so imagine a strangely small head on a neck that's actually thicker than the head, a wild crest of hair, like a beard, but in totally the wrong place, feet that look like solid clubs made of horn, and this thing, the uncloven hoof. I mean, it sounds like some kind of bizarre monster, right?
So what is this monster? It's a horse. It's such a brilliant point, isn't it? We're so used to seeing horses, we totally forget how utterly bizarre and incredible they are. Familiarity has blinded us. And Chesterton's whole argument is that we need to look at all of history with this same sense of fresh, wide-eyed wonder. Okay, so now that he's established this method, Chesterton applies it to the first huge thing that sticks out in natural history, the appearance of humanity itself. First, he just completely demolishes that popular myth of the caveman. The brutish, club-wielding figure we all see in cartoons. He points out that this image we have, it's basically a modern invention, a piece of fiction. It's not based on any actual evidence we found. Because when we actually go and look at the only real evidence from inside those prehistoric caves, we find something completely different. There are no clubs lying around, no rows of cracked skulls. Instead, we find large, incredibly skillful drawings of animals. We find art that shows movement and observation and even joy. We find evidence of an artist's spirit trying to do something difficult and beautiful.
And this all leads him to this powerful, simple conclusion. Art is the signature of man. It is a revolutionary leap, a quality that just separates humanity from the rest of the animal kingdom. No other animal does this. It's a thing that sticks out.
So now he's shown that humanity is unique in nature. Next, he applies that exact same logic to find the unique character within human history itself. He directly confronts that idea from Wells's book, the one that says Christ was just another myth, sort of like Mithras or other pagan gods. Chesterton says,
Okay, let's actually compare them. And when you do, the differences are just staggering. Mythological heroes, they have vague origins, they represent abstract ideas, but the Christ of the Gospels is rooted in a specific time and place in history. He has this complex, paradoxical personality, and his story isn't some repeating cycle. It's presented as a unique, one-time, world-altering event. And this is where it all comes together, the core thesis of the entire book. It's this powerful one-two punch. Man is different from all other creatures, and Jesus is different from all other men. For Chesterton, these are the two great revolutions, the two giant things that stick out that Wells's smooth, neat outline completely missed. So, did this argument actually land? What kind of impact did this incredible counter-narrative have? Well, let's take a look at its truly everlasting legacy. You can literally trace the ripple effect. So in 1920, Wells publishes his Secular History. 5 years later, in 1925, Chesterton fires back with The Everlasting Man. And then, get this, just a few years after that, in 1929, a young, brilliant, and very atheistic intellectual named C.S. Lewis reads Chesterton's book. He would later say it was one of the most important books he ever read, that it played a critical role in his own conversion to Christianity, and through him, it ended up shaping modern thought for generations. And so we end by turning Chesterton's method right back on ourselves. Because his great challenge wasn't just to H.G. Wells, it's for all of us. He's asking us to look past the familiar story, the one we've always been told, and to ask ourselves, what are the things that stick out in your story of the world?